game hurt my soul. Today we're playing Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Until we win. This game is actually the third in the series, following Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts. And just like its predecessors, it's damn hard. Damn! I guess playing on professional level doesn't make it any easier. I mean, hey, if you're gonna play the game, you might as well play the game. Oh well, you're gonna die a lot, but hey, at least it has an awesome soundtrack. Yeah! So what makes this game so difficult? 2 hits and you're dead. Now, I'll admit that's twice as good as some of the harder games out there, but if you get hit once, you lose your armor, and you get to run around in your boxers. Now when I say 2 hits, I mean it. Even if you get both armor upgrades, getting hit once knocks them off. You get 2 shield upgrades in this game, but they really only work against projectiles, and you have to be particular in where the projectiles hit you. Oh, and if you think coming across an armor upgrade is easy, then Capcom has a surprise for you. Every once in a while, instead of a weapon or armor, treasure chest will contain a bear trap or a wizard that turns you into a baby, a woman, a walrus, or a bee. Yeah, thanks for that, Capcom. Finding chests in this game is actually kind of fun. You've got to walk, jump, and double jump in specific locations to cause the various chests to show up, and some locations are actually pretty tricky. Now each stage in this game is broken up into 2 sections, plus a boss. The game does show some mercy here. If you get up to the second part of the stage and you die, you'll start from that point instead of the beginning. Of course, the game stops being merciful when you get up to the stage boss. If you die here, you don't get to fight the boss again, you have to fight through the level. Thank you very much, Capcom. Here are my top tips for beating this game. You absolutely must master jumping in this game. There are no 2 ways about it. This is old school platforming at its hardest. While most of the jumps in the game aren't anything special, it's their locations and the enemies around them that will make the platforming pull your hair out. You can double jump in this game, which is necessary to getting past even the first stage of the game. As with every Ghosts and Goblins game, you cannot change directions after you jump. But in Super Ghouls and Ghosts, you can change directions for the second jump. Don't expect to be able to reverse your momentum once you've jumped off that cliff though. Now the enemies in this game are no joke. While the basic enemies aren't very difficult one-on-one, the problem is they're everywhere. One wrong jump and you're dead. There are multiple weapons in this game, and the best one by far is the crossbow. Yeah, you do less damage with it, but you make up for it in being able to attack multiple times and in 2 directions. If you can't get the crossbow, then the second best weapon to have is the dagger. Again, it's not as powerful as the scythe or the axe, but the speed at which you can attack gives you a huge advantage in this game. The other weapons, the lance, scythe, axe, and magic sword, are all practically worthless. Most of the enemies in this game can be beaten in 1 or 2 hits, with the exception of a few harder enemies and the bosses. The number of enemies on screen at any given time is going to dictate that you use a weapon that fires quickly rather than hits hard. My final tip for you, take your time. Yeah, I know there's a timer in the game, but really it doesn't come into play until the later stages. Just take your time, make sure you don't make a mistake, and the jumps aren't going to be that difficult. If you just rush into things, chances are you're going to die, and die, and die. I know from experience. Alright, those are my tips for beating the game. Let's actually play through it. The first stage isn't very difficult. On professional level, you'll need to master the double jump right out of the gate though, because the number of zombies on screen can be problematic when you try to make your jumps. The only real sticking point you'll run into is the tsunami section. When you reach this section with the water in the background, get on the top of a stone pillar and stay there until the wave crashes down. If you're anywhere else but on the stone pillar, you're dead. Yeah, I don't really understand how that works either. Maybe they're magnetic rocks or something. The second part of the stage is a bit less lenient and much more cramped. You'll be facing off with a bunch of pulsating spores that explode. Kill the spores before they explode, otherwise you're gonna have to dodge the miniature spores that fire off from the explosion. This second section is all about carefully timed jumps. If you die, it's most likely because you were hit by a spore in midair and landed in the water, or the skull battering rams hit you one too many times. Take your time and plan your jumps carefully. If it looks like there's a battering ram in your way, then there's a good chance that the landscape is going to change, causing the battering ram to come crashing down towards you. Keep that in mind and you should be fine. The level boss is the cockatrice, and he's a good warm-up battle. At first, all you need to do is stay away from it, and if you have a crossbow, just fire at will until it's dead. Of course, the boss does have a couple of tricks up its sleeve. It can extend its neck pretty far, so you're going to have to judge carefully how far away you need to stand in order to keep a safe distance. The cockatrice has a special attack. It spits out eggs from its mouth, and man, does that look painful. The eggs hatch into mini-wings. Once one of them hatches, kill it and then focus on the boss again. All in all, this guy should go down pretty easily. The second stage is a bit tougher, but you shouldn't run into too many problems if you just take your time. The ghosts in this level can be a pain, and you'll need to watch out for the mimics. They're off-color treasure chests, otherwise you can easily end up dead. There are also these swinging axes that can be a real pain, but time your moves correctly and you can walk on by without any problems. The second part of the stage takes place on a floating raft, and this is where most players, I think, end up getting frustrated to the point of no return. This level is all about careful timing and pixel-perfect decisions. I can only give you two pieces of advice here. First, the rafts won't move unless you've already landed on them. So if you jump to move to another raft and you don't land on it squarely, then you're going to drown. Take your time in planning those jumps. Second, you just need to play the hell out of this level in order to master it. I mean, I could make a video telling you to jump here and then jump there and then jump back here, but really, this is all about timing and pixel-perfect jumping, so you just have to play the hell out of it. Sorry. The boss of the second level is a giant barnacle. Here's a little tip. You cannot jump over it. If you try, you'll get sucked down by his vortex and killed instantly. For the most part, all he does is stand around and take hits. He does, however, fire these annoying conch shells at you. You'll have to keep an eye out for those shells while rapidly firing at him. I'd actually recommend using the dagger for this boss because, for the most part, he'll be on a level plane with you. Now, it's only very rarely that the crossbow's second projectile comes in handy. Dodge the shells and kill him to move on. Now, the third stage is a task. I really don't have too many recommendations for you other than you really need the crossbow here. Mostly because of these annoying little demons that pop out of the lava and like to kill you in one hit. It's so much fun. The really hard part in this section are the disappearing, reappearing ledges in the lava. You'll die a couple of times trying to cross this gap, but eventually you should be able to make it. Just keep in mind that the next ledge usually won't show up until after you've already jumped, so you'll need to time your jumps very carefully in order to advance. The second part of the level is a bunch of twisting, turning towers all run by gargoyles, statues, bats, and goblins. Oh my! The good thing about this section is that there really isn't much platforming to worry about. Take your time getting past the obstacles and move on to the boss. The boss is a gigantic worm that encircles you. It's really not that difficult. All you have to remember is don't jump. He'll shoot out some bricks at you and then leave you alone. Just avoid the bricks and then he'll circle you again. Fire at his head a few times and he'll eventually go down. Just remember, when he's surrounding you, don't jump. The fourth stage is where things really start to get hard. The level itself is alive, and as you jump on each platform, the stage will rotate. But that's not all. If you take too much time getting to the platforms, the stage turns into this hideous spiked monster and kills you. Yeah, that's right. If you take too much time getting through the stage, it just kills you. There are two enemies in this level, the Fire Spirit and the Axe Ghost. Now, the Fire Spirit is no big deal. He's just like the one you saw in the first level, only he takes more damage and is green. The Axe Ghost, on the other hand, is a pain because he likes to attack you from underneath, and if you're on the level rotating platforms, there's almost nothing you can do to avoid him. Your best bet in this first level is to kill as many of the Axe Ghosts as you can before you hit the rotational platform. Beyond that, this is a very basic platforming level. Timing is everything. Now the second part of the stage is pretty fun. You're on this moving platform that will automatically guide you through the level. Of course, should you fall off the platform, you'll die, and Capcom has made sure that there are plenty of obstacles that will knock you down. Now there's a neat trick to staying alive in this level. Stay at the front of the platform. Now I know instinct will drive you to staying at the rear of the platform, somehow you feel safer that way, but if you stay near the front, you can trigger the gas traps earlier than if you had been near the rear. Staying near the front means you can avoid those gas traps a lot sooner than if you had stayed at the back. Now for me personally, this stage boss is really fun, and the Hydra is probably the most entertaining boss of the game. Shoot to kill. There isn't much to avoid aside from the occasional fireball. Just load up your crossbow or dagger and go to town on him. After one or two heads are defeated, the Hydra will actually morph into a spirit form and warp over to the other side of the screen. Just avoid the ghost that it transforms into, wait for the Hydra to reform, and then beat him senseless. Man, this boss is fun. The fifth stage isn't too much of a problem, but the platforming does start to get annoying here. Again, I highly recommend a crossbow for this level. One, because it allows you to much more easily kill the plant enemies that are scattered throughout the level, and two, because it's much easier to kill the red gargoyle with the crossbow than with any other weapon. Oh yeah, this is your first time encountering the red gargoyle, isn't it? Well, you better get used to getting your ass handed to you over and over again because of this guy. Man, the easiest way to kill him is with the crossbow because it fires in two directions. Otherwise, you're going to have a hell of a time hitting him because he automatically jumps up in the air and avoids any attack that you throw at him. Good luck. The second part of the stage mercifully lacks the red gargoyle, but the avalanches here will take you and throw you into a pit of spikes. The trick here is that you need to be on the ladder in order to survive the avalanche. What sense that makes, I don't understand. But eventually press forward and you'll face the boss. Freon, yeah, his name is Freon, can be a problem. While he moves like a typical boss, his attacks are much harder to avoid. His first attack is this annoying ice crystal that shatters into many pieces. If any of the pieces hit you, you'll freeze in place, and the only way to get unfrozen is to either take damage or mash the buttons on the controller until you break free. For his other attack, he throws his hands at you. While this may not sound impressive, believe me, they're difficult to avoid. To top all of that off, you'll need to hit Freon in the face in order to do any damage, otherwise your weapons won't register a hit. Again, the crossbow is the weapon of choice here. It allows you to hit Freon from any spot on the screen because it has that second angled shot. Otherwise, you'd spend your time jumping up trying to hit him maybe one or two times, and this makes the boss battle considerably more difficult. Now the next three stages of the game actually don't have second parts. Where you'd normally expect the second part to be, there's a boss. Stages 6 and 7 are quite possibly the most difficult parts of this game. You're gonna die a lot in these levels. In stage 6, you have to deal with 3 red gargoyles. Ugh. Use the crossbow to take them out and jump your way through the rest of this level until you meet your old buddy from the first game, Asaroth. He's not as simple to beat as he was in his previous incarnation. Yeah, he only moves left and right, but now he has 2 attacks, eye lasers and a fire attack that comes from his midsection. Since the fire doesn't have a great reach, you can use your crossbow to hit him in the head pretty much at will. Just remember to avoid those damn eye lasers. Now stage 7 is longer and a bit more difficult than the last one. This one is full of demons and gargoyles and cockatrice heads, ghosts and axe ghosts. Plus, you have even less time in this level than in the previous ones. I'm not gonna lie to you, I had to play through this level several times before I even made it up to the boss, and several more times before I was able to come in under the time limit. This boss is a doozy. First, you get to face Astaroth again. He fights exactly the same way as before, so you shouldn't have any problems beating him. Of course, that's not all. Now you get to beat Neberoth, a powered-up version of Astaroth. Neberoth's flame is much longer, and his laser beam takes up almost the entire screen. That means not only do you have to keep away from him, but you've got to time your jumps carefully or get blasted to oblivion by his laser beam. Oh yeah, you still have to shoot him in the head. Well, that's Super Ghouls and Ghosts. I mean, it was a difficult game, but it was... What? I have to play it again? Ah. Yeah, that's right. In the Ghost and Goblins tradition, you've got to go through the game a second time in order to get the ending. Only this time, you have to acquire a special bracelet that will allow you to advance to the final boss. How do you get the bracelet? Oh well, that's a piece of cake. See, all you have to do is get the bronze armor and then get the gold armor. You have to get the red shield, then the blue shield, then you have to power up your weapons until you finally get the bracelet. The only problem is the bracelet doesn't show up unless you have the gold armor and the red shield. And guess what? Getting hit, even once, puts you back in your boxers. Why did you do that to me, Capcom? Why? I thought we were friends. Yeah, that's right. You have to basically fight through this whole game a second time on a harder difficulty than before, completely untouched. Oh, and the bracelet itself? It's horrible. It's one of the weakest weapons in the game. It's slow, it has a limited range, and only fires in one direction. The hell with that, I want my crossbow back. So you fight through the game and get up to the final boss, who is... Sardius. This guy is crazy difficult. He fires these lasers in every direction and can only be hurt by attacking his face. Here's how you beat him. Avoid the lasers, then double jump on the platform that the middle face spits out. Jump up and fire your bracelet at him. Just be careful and methodical about where you stand when he fires his laser beams, and you should eventually beat him. It's assuming the time doesn't run out. Well, that's Super Ghouls and Ghosts in a nutshell. Man, is that game hard. I'm glad I don't have to play it again.